Module 16, Relational Summary Lecture GEP2, Liberating Ecology. You have only to come to the Rosebud Continuum Ecoscience Sustainability Center, where I live in Land O'Lakes, to see what we owe to the Marco Polo-like visits I was able to make with National Geographic, the U.S. Embassy, and solar cities to the east, following the sun. We have 3 Puxin Chinese biodigester dragons and several smaller digesters that I designed, inspired by my visits to the Near and Far East on the property, turning all of our food and toilet waste into clean fuel and nutritious fertilizer and healthy food. We have inexpensive and efficient Chinese evacuated tube solar hot water systems and solar electric panels. We have the Japanese blessed plastic to oil machine, which uses thermal depolymerization, pyrolysis, to turn much of our non-organic waste material, the so-called impossible to recycle number 7 plastics like used toothbrushes and dental floss and nutrition bar wrappers and chips bags, into hurricane lamp fuel. And we have composting toilets similar to what Chinese farmers used to place by their farms to gather the much needed night soil, the one that closed the metabolic rift through soil creation. Our PCGS students from the East, many of whom come to us through the Into USF program, usually arrive already knowing a lot about these technologies and techniques, while our own US-born students find themselves hearing about these simple solutions for the first time, or believing they're too expensive or unavailable or somehow unpractical or inefficient. Often we have to counter the America First bluster by admitting that in many parameters, America has become akin to a developing country, with a small class of insanely wealthy people whose ecological footprint is huge and who have an insatiable appetite for cradle-to-grave resources, with a shrinking middle class that spends its life trying to keep up with these polluting Joneses, and a burgeoning poor who live the consequences of environmental injustice without adequate health care or infrastructure alternatives. Students from places that had disparagingly been called third world countries, and at times even shithole countries, who are now beginning to implement green technologies with gusto and even take the shit from the hole and literally turn it into fuel and fertilizer and healthy food again, find themselves shocked to find how backwards and ignorant the richest and most powerful nation on earth seems to have remained by and large. The classic complaint we hear is, isn't Florida supposed to be the sunshine state? Well, how come there's so little going on here? And how come state officials were not allowed to use the words climate change and the majority here think it's a hoax? Politics, as usual. Meanwhile, on my trips throughout India with the India Youth Climate Network, through Nepal with National Geographic, and through China with Into and Solar Cities, I saw that somewhere on this great planet, we literally have all the drawdown solutions we need to mitigate and adapt to climate disruption. From solar-powered and heated skyscrapers I saw in new cities in China, to dedicated tree-lined bike and electric vehicle lanes in Shanghai and Shenzhen, and green belts along highways and bullet train railways everywhere in between. And these modules invited you to explore how it's only politics that stands between us and full adoption of green technology. This course has been a gateway, an entry ticket to the very real and powerful drawdown solutions that truly can end the threat of global warming. And not just end it. The title of our primary text, remember, is Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. Reverse global warming. And we're not just talking about stopping the planet from heating up. We're talking about cooling it down to the Holocene averages that made Homo sapiens and the other apes and monkeys and polar bears and pandas and dogs and cats and canaries flourish before we brought them in the coal mine and brought what was in the coal mines and oil wells out to them. And now we know that this can be done by switching to renewable energy, by establishing true solar cities, and primarily by reestablishing the forest and wetland and coral and kelp and soil ecosystems that once covered our planet with ever co-evolving life. This book is